The final battle loomed on the horizon, a confrontation that would decide the fate of humanity. Earth's skies were darkened by smoke from burning cities, its surface scarred by craters left behind by Council bombardments. Yet amidst the devastation, a spark of defiance burned brighter than ever. The Phoenix Initiative had proven that humanity could strike back, even against overwhelming odds. Now, it was time to deliver the decisive blow. Rachel Monroe stood in the command center, her eyes scanning rows of monitors displaying real-time data. Every screen showed a different aspect of the coming conflict. Council fleets advancing toward Earth, rebel fighters preparing for deployment, and civilians evacuating from vulnerable areas. Her mind raced with calculations and contingencies, but there was no room for doubt. This was it, the moment they had been working toward since the rebellion began. "We're ready," Daniel Brooks said, stepping up beside her. His voice was calm but carried an edge of tension. He had spent days coordinating defensive grids around major cities, transforming them into fortified strongholds. Anti-aircraft guns bristled atop skyscrapers, missile batteries lined streets, and underground shelters overflowed with refugees. Humanity's last stand would be fought not just in space but on the ground as well. Rachel nodded, her expression resolute. "Then let's finish this." Emily Dawson and Alex Hart worked feverishly in the lab, putting the finishing touches on their most ambitious project yet, a massive satellite weapon codenamed Eclipse Prime. Unlike its smaller predecessors, this version was designed to disable entire fleets simultaneously. Powered by zero-point energy and equipped with advanced targeting systems, it represented humanity's best chance to cripple the Council's forces. "It has to work," Emily muttered under her breath, her hands trembling slightly as she adjusted the final settings. Sleep deprivation had taken its toll, leaving dark circles under her eyes, but she refused to rest until the job was done. "It will," Alex assured her, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "We've tested every component. If anything can turn the tide, it's this." Maria Lopez paced nearby, her nerves taut like piano strings. She had volunteered to lead the mission to deploy Eclipse Prime, knowing full well the risks involved. Her squadron would need to escort the satellite into position while evading enemy fire. A task that required precision, speed, and sheer audacity. "You sure about this?" Rachel asked when Maria approached her later. "It's going to be dangerous." Maria met her gaze without hesitation. "I didn't sign up for safe missions," she replied firmly. "If anyone can pull this off, it's me." Rachel studied her for a moment before nodding. "All right. Just come back alive." "I'll do my best," Maria promised, though both women knew best might not be enough. As the launch window approached, the team gathered in the main chamber for a final briefing. Rachel addressed them, her voice steady despite the weight of what lay ahead. "This is it," she began. "Everything we've fought for comes down to today. The Council thinks they've already won, that we're too weak to resist. Let's prove them wrong." Her words ignited a fire in everyone present. Pilots suited up in sleek uniforms, engineers double-checked equipment, and strategists reviewed plans one last time. Outside, the Arctic wind howled, oblivious to the drama unfolding beneath the ice. Inside, the air crackled with determination. The operation began under cover of darkness. Fighters launched in waves, their engines roaring as they streaked toward the moon. There, Eclipse Prime waited, housed within a modified transport ship. Maria's squadron formed a protective perimeter around it, their movements synchronized and precise. Behind them, Earth hung in the distance, a fragile blue sphere surrounded by the vast emptiness of space. As they neared the Council fleet, tension mounted. Enemy ships loomed ahead, their sleek designs gleaming ominously under the pale light of the sun. Sensors detected incoming patrols, forcing Maria to order evasive maneuvers. "Stay sharp," she barked over the comms. "We're almost there." Suddenly, alarms blared as Council fighters broke formation and surged toward them. Maria's heart pounded as she guided her fighter into a tight spiral, narrowly avoiding a barrage of missiles. "Focus," she shouted, leading her team through a chaotic dogfight. Explosions lit up the void as rebel pilots exchanged fire with the enemy, each second stretching into eternity. Meanwhile, Alex monitored the transport ship carrying Eclipse Prime, his fingers flying across a keyboard. "Almost in position," he reported, sweat dripping down his face. 30 seconds. "Hold them off," Rachel commanded, her voice cutting through the chaos like a blade. Maria pushed her fighter to its limits, weaving through enemy fire while directing her squadron to create a diversion. "Go!" she yelled, signaling the transport ship to move forward. With agonizing slowness, the ship drifted into place above the Council fleet. Alex activated Eclipse Prime remotely, his breath catching in his throat as the device powered up. A pulse of energy surged outward, invisible to the naked eye but devastating in its effects. Council ships faltered mid-flight, their systems disrupted by the sudden loss of communication and coordination. "Yes," Alex exclaimed, slamming his fist onto the console. It worked. But the victory was short-lived. Reinforcements arrived, faster than anticipated, pouring out of hyperspace in overwhelming numbers. Maria's squadron found itself outnumbered and outgunned, forced to retreat or risk annihilation. "Fall back," she ordered, her voice tight with urgency. "We've done enough. Let's get out of here." Her fighters peeled away, weaving through enemy fire as they made their escape. Back at the base, the team watched anxiously as the remaining rebels returned, battered but alive. Maria climbed out of her cockpit, her face streaked with soot but her expression triumphant. "We did it," she announced breathlessly. "Their fleet is crippled." Rachel allowed herself a brief smile, relief washing over her like a wave. But the celebration was cut short as Daniel entered the room, his expression grim. "They're regrouping," he said. "And they're pissed." Indeed, the Council's response was swift and brutal. Surviving ships regrouped and launched a renewed assault on Earth, determined to crush the rebellion once and for all. Cities burned, skies filled with smoke, and millions perished in the relentless bombardment. Yet humanity refused to surrender. Civilians fought back with whatever weapons they could find, turning urban streets into battlegrounds. Soldiers defended fortified positions with unwavering resolve, holding the line against impossible odds. In the midst of the chaos, Rachel realized something remarkable. The Council had underestimated humanity's greatest strength, not its technology or weapons, but its spirit. No matter how many times they were knocked down, people kept getting back up. It wasn't just courage or resilience, it was hope. Hope that tomorrow could be better than today. Hope that freedom was worth fighting for. "We're not done yet," Rachel declared during a tense strategy meeting. "If they want to fight, we'll give them one they'll never forget." Using intelligence gathered from the previous strikes, the team identified the Council's flagship armada, a colossal convoy carrying high-ranking officials and critical resources. Taking it out would deal a crippling blow to the Council's leadership, potentially forcing them to sue for peace. The plan was risky, bordering on suicidal. Maria would lead a daring raid deep into enemy territory, using stealth fighters equipped with nanotech swarms capable of infiltrating and disabling Council drones. Once inside, they would plant explosives at key points, then detonate them remotely. The goal wasn't just to destroy the convoy but to send a message. Humanity wouldn't back down no matter the cost. "This is insane," Daniel said bluntly, studying the schematics. "You'll never make it out alive." Maria shrugged, her expression defiant. "Maybe, but if we succeed, we save Earth. Isn't that worth it?" Daniel opened his mouth to argue but closed it again, realizing she was right. Instead, he focused on ensuring the mission had the best possible chance of success, coordinating support teams and mapping escape routes. The raid launched under the cover of a solar storm, providing temporary interference that masked the rebels' approach. Maria's squadron slipped past enemy patrols undetected, their movements silent and precise. Reaching the flagship armada, they deployed the nanotech swarms, which infiltrated Council defenses with eerie efficiency. "Charges set," Maria reported, over the comms, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. "Detonating in 3, 2, 1. A series of explosions ripped through the convoy, sending shockwaves rippling through space. Council ships listed helplessly, their hulls breached and systems offline. Amidst the chaos, Maria led her team in a daring escape, dodging retaliatory fire as they fled toward safety. Back on Earth, news of the successful strike spread quickly. Cheers erupted in bunkers and shelters, survivors hugging each other in relief and joy. The Council, reeling from the loss of its flagship armada, issued an unexpected announcement: a ceasefire. General Brooks received the transmission personally, his eyes narrowing as he listened to the Council's terms. They agreed to lift the sanctions, restore Earth's access to advanced technology, and recognize humanity as an equal member of the galactic community. In return, they demanded assurances that Earth would abide by interstellar laws moving forward. The days that followed felt like an eternity. The alien ships remained in orbit, their presence a constant reminder of the threat hanging over Earth. Every sunrise brought new fears, and every sunset left people wondering if it would be their last. The Galactic Council had not responded to President Hayes's address, nor had they made any further demands. Their silence was unnerving. In Washington, D.C., the pressure mounted on President Hayes and his advisors. General Laura Bennett spent most of her time coordinating with military forces around the world. She knew that Earth's defenses were no match for the advanced technology displayed by the alien fleet, but she refused to give up. Her determination inspired those around her, even as reality weighed heavily on everyone. Dr. Richard Cole, on the other hand, struggled with doubt. He couldn't shake the feeling that Project Eclipse might be a futile effort. "We're talking about aliens who can travel across galaxies," he said during one meeting. "Do you really think our missiles will make a difference?" "They have to," Emily Dawson replied firmly. She had barely slept since proposing the idea, working tirelessly alongside her team to prepare the missile system. Kyle Monroe, another engineer, and Samantha Fields, a systems specialist, stayed by her side, sharing her relentless drive. Together they fine-tuned the AI guiding the missiles, ensuring they could evade detection for as long as possible. Meanwhile, Captain Daniel Brooks devised a plan to buy time. He proposed launching a series of decoy attacks against the alien fleet using Earth's remaining ships. It was a risky move. Earth's fleet was small compared to the massive armada above, but it might distract the aliens long enough for Project Eclipse to be launched. The president approved the plan, though he knew it meant sacrificing brave men and women. As preparations continued, ordinary citizens did what they could to help. In Chicago, Sarah Lane joined a local group organizing supplies for shelters. They collected food, water, and medical kits, distributing them to families who needed them most. Sarah worked tirelessly, often staying late into the night. Though exhausted, she found comfort in the camaraderie of her neighbors. It reminded her that humanity still had strength, even in the face of overwhelming odds. Her younger brother, Chris Lane, was stationed near New York City. A private in the military, Chris had been assigned to a defense unit tasked with protecting critical infrastructure. He spent his days patrolling the streets and helping civilians prepare for the worst. At night, he called Sarah whenever he could, trying to reassure her that he was safe. But both knew the truth. None of them were truly safe while the alien ships loomed overhead. One evening, as Chris stood guard outside a power station, he noticed a group of children playing nearby. They were laughing and chasing each other, seemingly oblivious to the danger surrounding them. For a moment, Chris forgot about the fear gnawing at his stomach. Watching them play reminded him why he had joined the military in the first place, to protect people like these kids. He vowed silently to do whatever it took to keep them safe. Back in space, Captain Brooks prepared his fleet for the decoy mission. The plan was simple yet dangerous. Launch a surprise attack on the alien ships, drawing their attention away from Earth. If successful, it would give Emily and her team the time they needed to activate Project Eclipse. But if it failed, the consequences would be catastrophic. On the day of the mission, Brooks gathered his crew aboard the flagship vessel. They were a mix of seasoned veterans and young recruits, all aware of the risks involved. Brooks addressed them with quiet confidence. Today, we fight not just for ourselves, but for everyone back home. Our job is to hold their attention long, enough for Earth to strike back. No matter what happens, we will not falter. The fleet launched under the cover of darkness, moving swiftly toward the alien armada. As they approached, the sheer size of the alien ships became even more apparent. Each vessel dwarfed Earth's tiny ships, glowing ominously against the backdrop of stars. Despite the odds, the crew remained focused, their training kicking in as they prepared for battle. When the attack began, chaos erupted. Earth's ships fired everything they had, targeting the largest alien vessels. The aliens responded immediately, unleashing devastating beams of energy that tore through space. Several of Earth's ships were destroyed in seconds, their crews lost forever. Yet despite the losses, Brooks's fleet pressed on, refusing to retreat. Their bravery paid off. The aliens shifted their focus to the attacking fleet, diverting resources away from Earth. This gave Emily and her team the opening they desperately needed. Deep underground, in a secure facility hidden beneath layers of rock, Emily initiated the final stages of Project Eclipse. "Missiles are armed and ready," Kyle announced, his voice tight with tension. Samantha double-checked the targeting systems, ensuring the AI would guide the missiles accurately. Emily stood at the control panel, her fingers hovering over the launch button. She glanced at the countdown timer ticking steadily downward. Outside, Sarah watched news reports showing footage of the battle in space. Explosions lit up the screen as Earth's ships clashed with the alien fleet. Her heart sank as she realized how many lives were being lost. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she wiped them away quickly. Crying wouldn't help anyone. Instead, she redoubled her efforts, packing supplies faster than ever before. Chris, meanwhile, received word of the ongoing battle. His commanding officer ordered his unit to remain on high alert, ready to respond to any threats. As he waited, Chris thought about his sister and the promise he had made to protect others. He tightened his grip on his weapon, determined to honor that promise no matter what. Above Earth, Captain Brooks's fleet fought valiantly, buying precious minutes for Project Eclipse. One by one, Earth's ships fell, their crews sacrificing themselves for the greater good. Brooks himself narrowly avoided destruction several times, his ship battered but still operational. He knew the end was near, but he refused to give up. Finally, the moment arrived. Back in the underground facility, Emily took a deep breath. "Launch sequence initiated," she said, her voice steady despite the weight of the decision. With a final press of the button, thousands of missiles roared to life, racing toward the surface and into the sky. For a brief moment, hope flickered in the hearts of those watching. Could this really work? Could humanity stand against such a powerful enemy? Only time would tell. The days that followed felt like an eternity. The alien ships remained in orbit, their presence a constant reminder of the threat hanging over Earth. Every sunrise brought new fears, and every sunset left people wondering if it would be their last. The Galactic Council had not responded to President Hayes's address, nor had they made any further demands. Their silence was unnerving. In Washington, D.C., the pressure mounted on President Hayes and his advisors. General Laura Bennett spent most of her time coordinating with military forces around the world. She knew that Earth's defenses were no match for the advanced technology displayed by the alien fleet, but she refused to give up. Her determination inspired those around her, even as reality weighed heavily on everyone. Dr. Richard Cole, on the other hand, struggled with doubt. He couldn't shake the feeling that Project Eclipse might be a futile effort. "We're talking about aliens who can travel across galaxies," he said during one meeting. "Do you really think our missiles will make a difference?" "They have to," Emily Dawson replied firmly. She had barely slept since proposing the idea, working tirelessly alongside her team to prepare the missile system. Kyle Monroe, another engineer, and Samantha Fields, a systems specialist, stayed by her side, sharing her relentless drive. Together, they fine-tuned the AI guiding the missiles, ensuring they could evade detection for as long as possible. Meanwhile, Captain Daniel Brooks devised a plan to buy time. He proposed launching a series of decoy attacks against the alien fleet using Earth's remaining ships. It was a risky move. Earth's fleet was small compared to the massive armada above, but it might distract the aliens long enough for Project Eclipse to be launched. The president approved the plan, though he knew it meant sacrificing brave men and women. As preparations continued, ordinary citizens did what they could to help. In Chicago, Sarah Lane joined a local group organizing supplies for shelters. They collected food, water, and medical kits, distributing them to families who needed them most. Sarah worked tirelessly, often staying late into the night. Though exhausted, she found comfort in the camaraderie of her neighbors. It reminded her that humanity still had strength, even in the face of overwhelming odds. Her younger brother, Chris Lane, was stationed near New York City. A private in the military, Chris had been assigned to a defense unit tasked with protecting critical infrastructure. He spent his days patrolling the streets and helping civilians prepare for the worst. At night, he called Sarah whenever he could, trying to reassure her that he was safe. But both knew the truth. None of them were truly safe while the alien ships loomed overhead. One evening, as Chris stood guard outside a power station, he noticed a group of children playing nearby. They were laughing and chasing each other, seemingly oblivious to the danger surrounding them. For a moment, Chris forgot about the fear gnawing at his stomach. Watching them play reminded him why he had joined the military in the first place, to protect people like these kids. He vowed silently to do whatever it took to keep them safe. Back in space, Captain Brooks prepared his fleet for the decoy mission. The plan was simple yet dangerous. Launch a surprise attack on the alien ships, drawing their attention away from Earth. If successful, it would give Emily and her team the time they needed to activate Project Eclipse. But if it failed, the consequences would be catastrophic. On the day of the mission, Brooks gathered his crew aboard the flagship vessel. They were a mix of seasoned veterans and young recruits, all aware of the risks involved. Brooks addressed them with quiet confidence. Today, we fight not just for ourselves, but for everyone back home. Our job is to hold their attention long. Enough for Earth to strike back. No matter what happens, we will not falter. The fleet launched under the cover of darkness, moving swiftly toward the alien armada. As they approached, the sheer size of the alien ships became even more apparent. Each vessel dwarfed Earth's tiny ships, glowing ominously against the backdrop of stars. Despite the odds, the crew remained focused, their training kicking in as they prepared for battle. When the attack began, chaos erupted. Earth's ships fired everything they had, targeting the largest alien vessels. The aliens responded immediately, unleashing devastating beams of energy that tore through space. Several of Earth's ships were destroyed in seconds, their crews lost forever. Yet despite the losses, Brooks's fleet pressed on, refusing to retreat. Their bravery paid off. The aliens shifted their focus to the attacking fleet, diverting resources away from Earth. This gave Emily and her team the opening they desperately needed. Deep underground in a secure facility hidden beneath layers of rock, Emily initiated the final stages of Project Eclipse. "Missiles are armed and ready," Kyle announced, his voice tight with tension. Samantha double-checked the targeting systems, ensuring the AI would guide the missiles accurately. Emily stood at the control panel, her fingers hovering over the launch button. She glanced at the countdown timer ticking steadily downward. Outside, Sarah watched news reports showing footage of the battle in space. Explosions lit up the screen as Earth's ships clashed with the alien fleet. Her heart sank as she realized how many lives were being lost. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she wiped them away quickly. Crying wouldn't help anyone. Instead, she redoubled her efforts, packing supplies faster than ever before. Chris, meanwhile, received word of the ongoing battle. His commanding officer ordered his unit to remain on high alert, ready to respond to any threats. As he waited, Chris thought about his sister and the promise he had made to protect others. He tightened his grip on his weapon, determined to honor that promise no matter what. Above Earth, Captain Brooks's fleet fought valiantly, buying precious minutes for Project Eclipse. One by one, Earth's ships fell, their crews sacrificing themselves for the greater good. Brooks himself narrowly avoided destruction several times, his ship battered but still operational. He knew the end was near, but he refused to give up. Finally, the moment arrived. Back in the underground facility, Emily took a deep breath. "Launch sequence initiated," she said, her voice steady despite the weight of the decision. With a final press of the button, thousands of missiles roared to life, racing toward the surface and into the sky. For a brief moment, hope flickered in the hearts of those watching. Could this really work? Could humanity stand against such a powerful enemy? Only time would tell. The initial shock of the alien attack had worn off, but the reality of the devastation was only beginning to sink in. Earth was battered and broken, its cities reduced to rubble, its skies filled with smoke that blocked out the sun. The air smelled of burning metal and ash, and the ground trembled occasionally from distant explosions. Yet amid the chaos, humanity began to pick up the pieces. Emily Dawson sat alone in the control room, staring at the monitors showing the aftermath of Project Eclipse. The missiles had hit their targets, destroying dozens of alien ships, but the cost had been enormous. Entire regions of Earth were now uninhabitable. Families were torn apart, homes destroyed, and lives lost. Emily felt a heavy weight on her shoulders, knowing she had played a key role in launching the attack. She wondered if there could have been another way, a better way, but deep down, she knew they had no choice. Kyle Monroe approached her quietly, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You did what you had to do," he said softly. "No one blames you for this." Emily nodded, though she didn't feel convinced. "I just hope it was enough," she replied. Her voice was barely above a whisper. Samantha Fields joined them a moment later, carrying a tablet filled with updates from global defense networks. "The aliens are regrouping," she said grimly. "They're not gone yet." Across the planet, people worked tirelessly to survive. In Chicago, Sarah Lane spent her days helping organize makeshift shelters for displaced families. The city was in ruins, but the community refused to give up. Neighbors shared food and supplies, pooling whatever resources they had left. Sarah found herself inspired by the resilience of those around her, especially the children, who somehow managed to laugh and play despite the horrors surrounding them. One day, while distributing water bottles to a group of survivors, Sarah noticed a young girl sitting quietly in the corner of the shelter. The girl clutched a small stuffed animal tightly to her chest, her wide eyes filled with fear. Sarah knelt beside her and offered a gentle smile. "What's your name?" she asked softly. "Lila," the girl whispered, barely audible. "Well, Lila, I'm Sarah. Do you know where your parents are?" The girl shook her head, tears welling up in her eyes. Sarah's heart broke, but she forced herself to stay strong. "It's okay," she said, pulling the girl into a hug. "We'll take care of you here. You're safe now." She didn't know if her words were true, but she hoped they would bring some comfort. Private Chris Lane was stationed in New York City, which had been hit particularly hard by the alien bombardment. The once bustling streets were now eerily silent, littered with debris and abandoned vehicles. Chris and his unit patrolled the area, searching for survivors and securing critical locations. Every step felt like walking through a graveyard, the silence broken only by the occasional groan of collapsing buildings or the distant sound of fires crackling. One evening, as Chris led his team through a residential neighborhood, they stumbled upon an alien drone lying partially buried in the rubble. It was damaged but still active, its glowing red sensors flickering ominously. Chris signaled for his team to take cover. If the drone reactivated fully, it could call for reinforcements or unleash another devastating attack. "We need to disable it," Chris said firmly, but quietly. "We can't risk drawing attention." The team moved cautiously, surrounding the drone. Chris grabbed a piece of jagged metal from the ground and approached it slowly. His heart raced as he reached out, jamming the metal into the drone's core. Sparks flew, and the machine let out a high-pitched whine before going dark. The team exhaled in relief, but Chris knew this was only a temporary victory. There were likely more drones scattered across the city, and the aliens could return at any moment. Back at the White House, President Alan Hayes met with General Laura Bennett and Dr. Richard Cole to discuss their next steps. The president looked visibly exhausted, his face pale and lined with worry. "We've struck back, but we've also shown our hand," he said. "The Galactic Council knows we're capable of fighting back. What happens when they come again?" General Bennett crossed her arms, her expression grim. "We prepare for the worst," she replied. "We fortify our defenses, train civilians to fight, and use every resource we have left. They underestimated us once. They won't make that mistake again." Dr. Cole nodded in agreement, but added, "We also need to think about diplomacy. Fighting might buy us time, but it won't solve this forever. If we can find a way to negotiate, even after everything that's happened." Hayes sighed deeply. "We'll keep that option open, but right now survival is our top priority." Meanwhile, resistance cells began forming spontaneously across the globe. Ordinary citizens, armed with whatever weapons they could scavenge, banded together to defend their communities. In Los Angeles, a group of engineers rigged old satellites to act as early warning systems, detecting incoming alien attacks. In London, a retired soldier trained volunteers in guerrilla tactics, teaching them how to ambush enemy forces. These efforts were small but significant, proving that humanity's spirit remained unbroken. In space, the Galactic Council assessed the damage inflicted by Project Eclipse and Captain Brooks's final assault. Kyle Vore, the insectoid ambassador, stood aboard the mothership, his mandibles clicking irritably as he reviewed the reports. He hadn't expected such defiance from what he considered a primitive species. The destruction of so many ships, and the crippling of the mothership itself, was unacceptable. Yet he couldn't deny that humanity had surprised him. "They're more resourceful than anticipated," Calvor admitted to his subordinates. "But their actions will not go unpunished. Prepare for a second wave. This time, leave nothing standing." The order sent shivers through the crew. A second wave meant total annihilation, not just of Earth's military but of its entire population. The aliens' advanced weapons would ensure no corner of the planet was safe. For humanity, it was a race against time to prepare for the inevitable. Emily and her team worked nonstop to improve Project Eclipse, analyzing data from the first launch to identify weaknesses. They discovered that the alien ship's shields were weakest during coordinated attacks, suggesting that simultaneous missile strikes could overwhelm their defenses. Kyle suggested modifying the AI to target specific areas of the ship's hulls, where the armor appeared thinner. Samantha focused on upgrading the guidance systems, ensuring the missiles could adapt to countermeasures in real time. "There's still hope," Emily told her team one night as they pored over schematics. "If we can hit them harder next time, maybe we can drive them away for good." Her words carried a fragile optimism, but everyone in the room understood the stakes. Failure wasn't an option, not when the fate of humanity hung in the balance. As the days passed, stories of heroism emerged from the ashes of destruction. In Tokyo, a firefighter named Hiroshi Tanaka risked his life to rescue trapped survivors from a collapsed skyscraper. In Rio de Janeiro, a teenage girl named Maria used her knowledge of electronics to repair a damaged radio transmitter, restoring communication between isolated communities. Each act of bravery reminded people that, even in the darkest times, humanity could shine. Chris Lane continued his patrols in New York, determined to protect those who remained. One night, as he stood guard near a refugee camp, he spotted movement in the shadows. At first, he thought it was another alien drone, but then he realized it was a group of survivors sneaking through the ruins. They were unarmed, and clearly terrified, their faces streaked with dirt and tears. "Stop right there," Chris called out, raising his weapon cautiously. The group froze, their eyes wide with fear. "We're not enemies," one of them, a middle-aged man, stammered. "We're just trying to get to safety." Chris lowered his weapon slightly. "Where are you headed?" "To the harbor," the man replied. "We heard there's a ship waiting to evacuate people." Chris hesitated. He didn't know if the information was accurate, but he couldn't abandon them either. "All right," he said finally. "Follow me. I'll escort you." The journey to the harbor was perilous, with crumbling buildings and hidden dangers at every turn. But Chris stayed alert. guiding the group safely to their destination. When they arrived, they found a cargo ship preparing to depart, packed with refugees desperate to escape the city. As the survivors boarded, the man turned to Chris and thanked him profusely. "You saved us," he said. "Thank you." Chris simply nodded, watching as the ship sailed away into the horizon. He wished he could leave too, but he knew his duty was here, to stand and fight for those who couldn't. As dawn broke over the ravaged planet, humanity faced an uncertain future. The aliens would return, and the battle ahead would be fiercer than ever. But despite the odds, people refused to give up. They rebuilt what they could, cared for one another, and prepared to defend their home. Earth might have been scarred, but its people remained unbroken. Whatever came next, they would face it together with courage, determination, and hope. The days leading up to the aliens' second wave were filled with tension and dread. Everyone knew it was coming, but no one knew when or how devastating it would be. The Galactic Council had made it clear that they wouldn't show mercy this time. Earth's skies remained eerily quiet, but the absence of alien ships only heightened the anxiety. It felt like the calm before a storm, one that could wipe out humanity for good. Emily Dawson and her team worked tirelessly in the underground facility, refining Project Eclipse to prepare for another attack. They had learned valuable lessons from the first launch, but Emily couldn't shake the fear that it might not be enough. The missiles had damaged the alien fleet, but their technology was far superior. Could humanity really stand a chance? Kyle. Monroe tried to keep spirits high, cracking jokes whenever he could. "Hey, at least we got them scared," he said one night as they reviewed data from the previous strike. "They didn't expect us to hit back so hard." "Yeah, but look where it got us," Samantha Fields replied, pointing to a map, showing the destruction across Earth. Cities were reduced to rubble, millions were dead or displaced, and entire regions were uninhabitable. "We can't afford another fight like that." Emily nodded, her expression grim. "Then we make sure the next strike counts. We find their weak points and exploit them. That's our only shot." Her determination inspired the others, even as exhaustion weighed heavily on all of them. Sleep became a luxury none of them could afford. Every minute counted, and they pushed themselves harder than ever before. Meanwhile, General Laura Bennett coordinated global defense efforts, rallying what remained of Earth's military forces, HFY. Traveled to key locations, inspecting shelters, organizing supply lines, and ensuring communication networks stayed operational. Her presence brought hope to many, especially soldiers who looked to her for guidance. One evening, she visited a makeshift command center in Chicago, where Sarah Lane was helping coordinate relief efforts. Sarah had become a vital part of the community, organizing food distribution and tending to the injured. When General Bennett arrived, Sarah greeted her nervously, but with respect. "You're doing good work here," Bennett said, surveying the crowded shelter. "Keep it up. People need leaders like you now more than ever." Sarah nodded, grateful for the encouragement. "We're just trying to survive," she said softly. "But I don't know how much longer we can hold on." "We'll hold on, as long as we have to," Bennett replied firmly. "Humanity doesn't give up. Not now, not ever." Private Chris Lane continued his patrols in New York City, which grew quieter with each passing day. Most survivors had fled, leaving behind ghostly streets littered with debris. Chris and his unit focused on securing critical infrastructure, knowing it would be essential if humanity hoped to rebuild. But the constant threat of alien drones kept them on edge. One night, while searching an abandoned warehouse, Chris heard a faint buzzing sound. He signaled for his team to take cover, gripping his weapon tightly. A moment later, a drone emerged from the shadows, its red sensors scanning the area. Chris held his breath, waiting for the right moment to strike. When the drone passed close enough, Chris lunged forward, smashing its core with a metal pipe. Sparks flew as the machine collapsed, lifeless. His teammates breathed a sigh of relief, but Chris knew there would be more. The aliens were testing Earth's defenses, probing for weaknesses. Back in space, Kyle Vore oversaw preparations for the second wave. The Galactic Council had underestimated humanity once, and they weren't about to repeat that mistake. Reinforcements poured into the system, swelling the alien fleet to unprecedented numbers. Their weapons were upgraded, their strategies refined. This time, they would leave nothing to chance. Kyle Vore addressed his commanders, his voice cold and commanding. Earth has shown defiance, but defiance is meaningless without power. Destroy their cities, their defenses, their will to resist. Leave no trace of their existence. His words sent a chill through the crew, but they obeyed without question. The fleet moved into position, ready to unleash hell upon the planet below. On Earth, President Alan Hayes delivered a sobering speech to the remnants of humanity. Standing in the ruins of Washington, D.C., he spoke directly to the cameras, his face lined with fatigue but his voice steady. "The battle ahead will be the hardest we've ever faced," he said. "But we cannot, and will not, give up. Our ancestors fought wars, survived plagues, and overcame disasters. We are their descendants, and we carry their strength within us. Together, we will endure." The speech resonated deeply with people around the world. In Los Angeles, a group of engineers rigged old satellites to monitor the alien fleet's movements. In London, a retired soldier trained civilians in guerrilla tactics, teaching them how to ambush enemy forces. Resistance cells formed spontaneously, united by a shared determination to protect their home. As the alien ships descended once again, humanity braced for impact. Cities activated emergency protocols, evacuating civilians to underground shelters. Military units took defensive positions, preparing to fight until the bitter end. Emily and her team stood ready in the control room, their fingers hovering over the launch button for Project Eclipse. When the attack came, it was brutal. Energy beams rained down from orbit, obliterating everything in their path. Skyscrapers crumbled, bridges collapsed, and fires spread uncontrollably. The ground shook violently, sending shockwaves through the air. People screamed and ran for cover, clutching loved ones as chaos engulfed them. In Chicago, Sarah Lane helped guide survivors to safety, ignoring the deafening explosions overhead. She thought about her brother, Chris, praying he was still alive. Her hands trembled as she handed out supplies, but she refused to let fear take hold. "Stay strong," she told those around her. "We've made it this far. We can make it through this too." Chris faced the onslaught head-on, leading his unit in a desperate effort to disable alien drones patrolling the city. Each encounter was a gamble, but he fought with everything he had, knowing failure meant certain death. At one point, his team stumbled upon a group of trapped civilians hiding in a subway station. Without hesitation, Chris led the rescue mission, shielding the survivors as they escaped to safer ground. Amid the devastation, acts of heroism shone brightly. In Tokyo, Hiroshi Tanaka used his firefighting skills to contain a massive blaze threatening to engulf an evacuation site. In Rio de Janeiro, Maria hacked into an alien drone system, disabling it just moments before it unleashed a deadly payload. These small victories reminded everyone that humanity wasn't powerless, even against such overwhelming odds. As the battle raged on, Emily initiated the second launch of Project Eclipse. Thousands of missiles roared into the sky, targeting the alien fleet with precision. Explosions lit up the heavens, destroying dozens of ships in seconds. For a brief moment, hope flickered in the hearts of those watching. Perhaps humanity could win after all. But the aliens adapted quickly, deploying new countermeasures to neutralize the missiles. Their shields absorbed most of the blasts, and their advanced weaponry retaliated with devastating force. Cities burned. Oceans boiled and mountains crumbled under the relentless assault. Humanity teetered on the brink of collapse. Yet even in the darkest hour, courage prevailed. Ordinary people rose to extraordinary heights, refusing to surrender. Soldiers fought. Valiantly, scientists worked tirelessly, and civilians banded together to support one another. Though battered and bruised, humanity's spirit remained unbroken. In the final hours of the battle, General Bennett issued a rallying cry to all remaining forces. "This is it," she said over the global comms network. "Everything we've worked for comes down to this moment. Stand your ground. Fight for your families, your friends, your future. We may fall, but we will never kneel. Her words echoed across the planet, inspiring millions to keep fighting despite the odds. As dawn broke over the shattered landscape, humanity prepared for one last stand. The outcome was uncertain, but one thing was clear: Earth would not go down without a fight. Whatever happened next, humanity would face it together, with courage, resilience, and an unyielding belief in their ability to overcome even the greatest challenges. The battle raged on, and Earth seemed to be on the verge of collapse. Fires burned across continents, oceans churned from the impact of alien weapons, and cities lay in ruins. The skies were filled with smoke and ash, blotting out the sun and plunging the world into an eerie twilight. Yet even in the face of such devastation, humanity refused to give up. Emily Dawson and her team worked furiously in the underground facility, monitoring the second wave of Project Eclipse. They had launched thousands of missiles, but the aliens' advanced technology was proving harder to overcome than they had hoped. Explosions lit up the sky as the missiles struck their targets, but many of the alien ships remained intact, their shields absorbing the brunt of the attacks. "We're running out of options," Kyle Monroe said, his voice strained with exhaustion. "If this doesn't work, we're done." Emily clenched her fists tightly, staring at the monitors showing the ongoing battle. She refused to believe that humanity's fate was sealed. "We've still got a few tricks left," she replied firmly. "Samantha, reroute power to the targeting systems. Let's focus everything on their command ships. If we can cripple their leadership, maybe it'll throw them off balance." Samantha nodded and got to work, her fingers flying over the keyboard. The team knew they were gambling everything on this last-ditch effort, but they had no other choice. Emily took a deep breath, trying to steady her nerves. "Launch the final salvo," she ordered. The missiles roared into the air once more, their engines blazing like streaks of light against the darkened sky. This time, the AI-guided systems zeroed in on the largest and most heavily guarded alien vessels, the ones likely housing the fleet's command centers. As the missiles struck, massive explosions rocked the alien armada. Several ships disintegrated instantly, while others sustained critical damage. For a brief moment, hope surged through the control room. Emily allowed herself a small smile, thinking that perhaps they had turned the tide. But then the reality hit. The surviving alien ships began retaliating with even greater ferocity. Energy beams lashed out, striking Earth with devastating force. Entire regions were wiped out in seconds, and communication networks collapsed under the strain. In Chicago, Sarah Lane huddled with a group of survivors in an underground shelter. The walls shook violently as explosions reverberated above them. Children cried, clutching their parents for comfort, while adults tried to stay strong despite the fear gnawing at their hearts. Sarah held Lila, the young girl she had met earlier, close to her chest, whispering words of reassurance. "It's going to be okay," she murmured, though she wasn't sure she believed it herself. Private Chris Lane fought valiantly in New York City, leading his unit in a desperate attempt to disable alien drones patrolling the area. Each encounter was a race against time, with Chris knowing that failure meant certain death, not just for him, but for the civilians depending on him for protection. At one point, his team managed to destroy a drone hovering near a hospital, preventing it from unleashing its payload. The victory was small, but it gave them the strength to keep going. As the battle intensified, General Laura Bennett coordinated Earth's remaining forces from a makeshift command center. Her voice crackled over the comms network, urging soldiers and civilians alike to hold their ground. "This is our home," she said, her tone fierce and unyielding. "We will not let them take it from us. Stand firm." Her words inspired countless acts of bravery. In Tokyo, Hiroshi Tanaka led a group of volunteers in extinguishing fires threatening to engulf an evacuation site. In Rio de Janeiro, Maria used her technical skills to hack into another alien drone, disabling it moments before it could attack a crowded shelter. These acts of courage reminded everyone that even in the darkest times, humanity could shine. Back in space, Kael'vor assessed the situation aboard the mothership. The human resistance had surprised him again, dealing significant damage to the fleet. But he remained confident that the Galactic Council would emerge victorious. "They are persistent," he admitted to his subordinates, "but persistence does not equal victory. Finish them." The order sent waves of dread through Earth's defenders. The aliens launched a final, overwhelming assault, raining destruction down upon the planet. Cities burned, mountains crumbled, and rivers boiled under the relentless barrage. It seemed like all hope was lost. But then something unexpected happened. Captain Daniel Brooks's sacrifice during the first wave had not been in vain. The crippling blow he dealt to the mothership disrupted the coordination of the entire alien fleet. Without centralized command, the ships began to falter, their attacks becoming less precise and more chaotic. Humanity seized the opportunity. Emily and her team exploited the chaos, launching a third and final missile barrage. This time, the AI systems targeted the weakest points of the damaged alien ships, ensuring maximum impact. Explosions erupted across the sky, lighting up the heavens in a dazzling display of destruction. Dozens of alien vessels were obliterated, and the rest began to retreat. Kyle Vore watched in disbelief as his fleet withdrew, leaving Earth battered but still standing. For the first time, he felt a flicker of doubt. Perhaps humanity was more resilient than he had anticipated. "We underestimated them," he muttered bitterly. "But this is not over." Withdrawing from orbit, the alien ships disappeared into the void, leaving behind smoldering ruins and countless unanswered questions. The immediate threat was gone, but the scars of the invasion would remain for generations. On Earth, the survivors emerged cautiously from their shelters, blinking in the dim light of the smoke-filled sky. The air smelled of burning metal and ash, but amidst the devastation, there was a sense of relief and pride. Humanity had faced an enemy far superior in technology and numbers, yet they had endured. President Allen Hayes addressed what remained of the nation from the ruins of Washington, D.C. His voice trembled with emotion as he spoke. "Today we stand as survivors," he said. "We have faced the greatest challenge in our history, and though we are scarred, we are not broken. To those who fought, who sacrificed, who refused to give up, thank you. Together, we will rebuild. Together, we will rise again." His speech resonated deeply with people around the world. In Chicago, Sarah Lane hugged Lila tightly, tears streaming down her face. She thought about her brother Chris, praying he was safe. In New York, Chris stood amidst the rubble, his body aching but his spirit unbroken. He thought about Sarah too, hoping she was alive and well. Emily Dawson and her team celebrated quietly in the control room, exhausted but triumphant. They had played a crucial role in saving Earth, but they knew the cost had been immense. "We did it," Kyle said softly, breaking the silence. "Against all odds, we actually did it." Emily nodded, her eyes glistening with tears. "Yeah," she whispered. "But at what cost? The road ahead would be long and difficult. Cities needed to be rebuilt, lives needed to be mourned, and wounds needed to heal. Yet despite the challenges, humanity emerged united. The invasion had shown them their strength, their resilience, and their capacity to come together in the face of adversity. In the weeks and months that followed, stories of heroism spread across the globe. Captain Daniel Brooks was posthumously awarded the Medal of Honor, his name etched into history alongside other legendary figures. Emily Dawson became a symbol of ingenuity and determination, hailed for her role in activating Project Eclipse. General Laura Bennett continued to lead recovery efforts, ensuring that no one was left behind. Sarah Lane returned to teaching, helping children process the trauma of the invasion while instilling in them a sense of hope for the future. Chris Lane joined reconstruction teams, working tirelessly to rebuild New York City brick by brick. Though the scars of war lingered, both siblings found solace in knowing they had done everything they could to protect their world. Earth had been tested, battered, and nearly destroyed, but it had survived. Humanity had proven that even in the eye face of overwhelming odds, they would not surrender. The galaxy now knew that Earth was not just a small blue dot in the cosmos. It was a force to be reckoned with. And though the future remained uncertain, one thing was clear. Humanity's story was far from over.